opportunity to speak before the board. My name is Barry Court, and I'm going to co-present with Steve Radke. And we're speaking on behalf of the Beulah Responsible Voters, or BRV, and we are a recently organized group of Lake Beulah wakeboat enthusiasts, but that's not all we are. We're water skiers, we're sailors, we're paddle sports enthusiasts, we're adopted sports supporters, and of course, we're your friends and neighbors on the lake. We have heard the complaints about wake boats, so we're aware of the perceptions, and no doubt we care deeply and are committed to the preservation of Lake Beulah for current and future lake users. Lake Beulah is a crown jewel lake, and like any other sensible lake user, we wouldn't purposely operate our wake boats in a destructive manner. So, what's our immediate mission? Why did we get organized? Well, two key reasons. First, to challenge the science, which there are views that the science indisputably requires banning wake boats because of the existential threat that wake boats present to the underwater ecosystem on the lake. Steve Radke, one of my colleagues who's joined BRV on an advisory basis, is going to speak more specifically to the science. So second, once we get past that, well, that doesn't mean we're advocating sitting on our hands. Really, we think the narrative should shift towards enforcing existing ordinances that you already have on the books and promoting greater voter education, helping people be better, practical voters. So how can we achieve that mission? Not, again, by sitting on our hands. We've got an energized group to take action. First, by advocating the enforcement of existing regulations. Thankfully, Lake Beulah, the town of East Troy, has already adopted a 200-foot setback from the shore to place buoys for no wake zones. It's our observation that the buoys aren't actually placed there right now. Second is to use whatever other ordinances exist, including the ability to mark weed beds or other sensitive areas of the lake to keep boaters, not just wake boaters, all boaters away from them. And of course, the second is to really provide education. And I think we have the resources to help do that by increasing signage that might be available at the boat launch, by providing placards to those who bring their boats on the lake, or for those who already have their boats on the lake, with guidelines that specify good and potentially bad practices. Ultimately, we think the best boaters are the ones that are educated, not just wake boaters, but all boaters. Finally, I would just know in achieving our mission, it's going to require some collaboration, some serious collaboration and compromise, not just from wake boaters, from all users of the lake. In that regard, we are enthusiastic about that possibility. We've seen it done successfully on other lakes without bans, and we look forward to working with those on this lake, our lake, to achieve the same outcome. So,
thanks, Barry. It's been it's been excellent being part of the BRV team. They're energized, they're looking for solutions to work with everybody to do the right thing. About me, I have an engineering background. It's primarily in the automotive and the military shipbuilding. So I've been involved in a lot of testing, a lot of studies, and that's kind of where I got into this. As we started looking at the studies that have been communicated, what we felt was, and this is a few of my colleagues and myself, is we felt that the data wasn't being fully represented. It wasn't what was being told, it was what wasn't being told. And so the whole story, in terms of what the data is telling us, has not been told. We kind of are viewed as like the opposition to what's going on and all this stuff. It should be understood that when we look at the data and we look at the science behind it, we actually are advocating for a setback even at the state level up to 200 feet, which you guys are already at, but the data actually says we can move that back. We are actually advocating change, okay? Most of our information is usually coming from studies. Unfortunately, a lot of the studies in this area are not truly peer reviewed, not even the St. Anthony Falls. It was reviewed, it didn't go into an academic journal. Actually, one of the reviewers felt he never even saw the, response in the back. They actually made some comments about the St. Anthony Falls, which is the benchmark study, which is what they put on a lot of these condition reports for these bands. His comments were, it was amateur hour dressed up as science. There were so many fundamental errors in the understanding of the science and collection and analysis of the data that is embarrassing more than anything. So we kind of have to look at this data as data. And also, we look at it comprehensively. We look at all the studies, we look at what the data tells us in a complete fashion. The first graph right there basically shows how many studies are involved and what's going on. The bottom section are boats from 11 to 25 miles an hour. This is kind of more on the state side. You can see all those data points at the 200-foot mark. What the pro band side, and when they usually give the presentations, they love to count that one at the very top, that one bullet point. There's so much data underneath that actually represents all the other studies that are involved in this, okay? And there's basically about 5 studies. There's St. Anthony Falls, there's WSIA, there's called Australian Maritime College, there's also Ray, and there's also TerraVisualist, all have weight height, and some of them have energy calculations. Next slide. So what we did is we broke it down, and we said, what does it mean if we just take the averages of everything? All the studies, 100 feet, 200 feet, etc. You can see at 200 feet, now these are boats with ballast surfing. The dot underneath is actually boats basically with no ballast, and that's their wave heights. There's an 1.5 inch difference at 200 feet. When we were talking to Cox from St. Anthony Falls, he actually reviewed that study. The point they made to us is that you have to have an order of magnitude difference to have an impact. That means multiplies. 1.5 inches is not an order of magnitude difference at 200 feet. 200 feet is a really good distance, okay? Next slide. We understand this is our data, so what we did do is St. Anthony Falls did have some good data. What we actually did is we actually took the VLX data from St. Anthony Falls. The graph on the left is called condition 1A, that's surfing at 11 miles an hour. The VLX data is condition 2 on the right side. That's 20 miles an hour, no ballast. Same boat. So we're always being told it's not about your boat, it's only about the activity of surfing, right? Those waves are almost identical at 100 feet. At 200 feet, they're within 1 inch. Okay? So that's actually, you can actually see the page numbers, 59, 71 for the St. Anthony Falls data. Make sense? So when we talk about wave heights, when we talk about energies, we're not talking about orders of magnitude difference.
2 minutes.
And we also talk about all the data. We don't talk about a single point or a single study. We gotta look at it comprehensively and see what's best and what makes sense for the lake community and what makes sense for each town, right? That one can wait a little bit. As we talk about, what's that? Let's talk about sediment suspension. Okay, TerraVisualist, real quick. They have an older study that actually that talks about phosphorus. What they don't tell you is that they actually tested phosphorus for one day on a Tuesday where there's minimal boat traffic. It actually had a 23 to 200% variation with almost no boat traffic. Had nothing to do with boats passing by, okay? So as they talked about, well, a wake boat passing by, it has, releases phosphorus. Every boat does it. Any boat that's involved in sediment resuspension. There's 2 studies, Dager and also Raymond and Galvez. Raymond and Galvez actually did acoustical sonars and actually measured, to the best of their ability, the speed down to 15 feet. The first day they tested, they got the ability to move silt, which is 12 centimeters per second. That's at around 10 feet. The second day, they said they got to 15 feet. They had a diver down there, didn't see anything at 15 feet. Both Dager and Raymond also did quantitative testing. They tested suspended solids, they tested phosphorus, they tested a multitude of tests. Right after the boat passed localized, they found no variations. So when we talk about sediment resuspension, we have to talk about long-term impact. We've been studying for 50 years sediment resuspension and prop wash. And we know that it happens, and we know that can occur, but it happens with every boat, especially in the shallow regions, correct? That graph right there shows us, and I know Lake Beulah has on their website, that is historical data. It shows that there's no trend change.
So,
That's good.
thank you very
Thank
much
you for
for
your time, I
your
really appreciate it.
information. Our second presenter this evening will be the alternative position.
Kim Rosenmeyer, 9451 Island Drive, Quantico, Wisconsin, 53149. Thank you for hearing an alternate opinion regarding lake enhanced sports on Lake Beulah from myself, Deborah Dunn, and Jim Longberg. We three care deeply about Lake Beulah's water quality, aquatic habitat, and citizens' right to recreate and enjoy beautiful Lake Beulah. We each hold a position on the PLB board. I am water quality and secretary. Deborah is marketing and Jim is membership. I am also a volunteer citizen monitor for Lake Beulah. I'm responsible for collecting and submitting objective water quality chemistry data reporting to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. In 2023, I purchased and donated modernized chemistry testing equipment. This allowed me to test 5 parameters instead of 3, obtain data at 60 feet instead of 30 feet, and it gave me confidence that the data I'm collecting is accurate. I do this because I care, and I want to collect correct, objective data for Lake Beulah. I am here to share the objective data from the WDNR website for Lake Beulah. The Trophic State Index result, mesotrophic. Total phosphorus and chlorophyll levels are stable and trending down over the last 10 years. Lake Beulah is a deep stratified 2-story lake, and the temperature readings remain stratified during the months of summer months. These objective data points indicate that Lake Beulah's water chemistry is in good shape, and that makes me happy. I am here to encourage our community to continue a collaborative approach that was started. Collaboration promotes education, understanding, and adherence of healthy lake behaviors for all users. We need to address and educate and not villainize one specific watercraft. For example, aquatic plant scarring by multiple types of watercrafts on the underwater humps. Let's educate voters of their existence. Let's mark them, let's map them, let's do both. Lastly, I'm here to share our alternate opinion that was submitted as requested by the PLB board December 30th, 2024. Protect Lake Beulah board has taken a majority vote, 6 in favor of a temporary ban of wake enhanced boating on Lake Beulah. 3 long-term resident board members disagree with this position. We feel that a study of potential actions around implementation of responsible boating practices, education, enforcement, and environmental monitoring may balance recreational use with ecological preservation while respecting Wisconsin's public trust doctrine. Let's find out. PLB completed a survey in the fall of 2024, reporting that 43% of the respondents wanted a ban on wake enhanced boats, while 43% wanted education, regulation, or nothing to be done. With less than 50% in any category, we believe that before implementing an outright ban, we investigate additional actions and protections that will ensure protection of the lake along with responsible recreational use. Lake Beulah is an 800-acre lake with a depth of 57 feet, with designated wake days and times accommodating various recreational activities. Lake Beulah enjoys a reputation of being a clean, spring-fed lake. Many riparian owners have chosen Lake Beulah because it is a full sport lake. PLB reports that water quality is improving. PLB collects data using multiple parameters evaluating the water quality in conjunction with the WDNR. The data suggests improving water quality over the last 10 years regarding phosphorus and clarity with no change in stratification thermocline. On Lake Beulah, there has not been a concentrated effort to educate voters about responsible boating, including wake enhanced boating, which is crucial to avoiding environmental impacts. Environmental concerns reported are erosion of shoreline, lake bed disturbance, and congestion on the lake, and introduction of invasive species. By educating users, it may become possible to foster a culture of environmental stewardship. Before we ban any activity, we need to understand the impact on our lake. By implementing strategic guidelines, enforcement, education, and introducing controlled access zones, it may be possible to allow the use of wake boats while preserving the integrity of the lake and its shorelines. In fact, there's a newly formed group of boating enthusiasts called BRB, Beulah Responsible Boaters, who are working on behaviors and recommendation for responsible wake enhanced boating that will protect our lake for generations to come. By maintaining recommended distances from the shoreline, this will create a buffer zone to prevent shoreline erosion and destruction of fish habitats. Keeping boats at least 200 feet from the shore while engaging in the sport will protect the lake shores. Please see the attached map in your packet. By reviewing the contours of the lake, it may be possible to determine the best locations for wake surfing. Remember, we made a change on Mill Lake about 10 years ago that required boats to stay 200 feet from the shore, which were marked with buoys, and this seems to have corrected the problem. By controlling where wake surfing is allowed, the impact on sensitive areas can be mitigated. We recommend that a cross-section of active lake users be assembled to evaluate wake-enhanced sports and how they can coexist with the long-term health of Lake Beulah. We would ask that this group be assembled no later than February, with recommendations due to the town board no later than the middle of April. For your information, Lauderdale Lakes, another Walworth County lake, which is 834 acres with a maximum depth of 57 feet, is made up of 3 lakes: Green Lake, Middle Lake, and Mill Lake. The Lauderdale Lake Improvement Association has chosen to work with their community. It has designated areas for wake surfing with recommendations of water depth of 20 feet and currently 200 feet from the shore. However, per the Vice President, Jim Corcoran, they will probably be changing that recommendation to 300 feet from the shore. The association is going to send out a mailer with recommendations and a map of the locations to all area residents, as well as posting it at the boat launch. They are also going to employ a citizen watch, and if they find a violator, they will look up the registration number, mail out a flyer with the recommendations and a map. They will not be finding the violators, but are advocating to educate all users. In conclusion, we believe that allowing wake-enhanced boats on Lake Beulah may be done in a responsible manner that protects the shoreline and overall ecosystem. By implementing a combination of distance guidelines, designating wake zones, education programs, and enforcement measures, the potential environmental impacts can be mitigated. Let's understand the impact on our lake. It would be irresponsible to enforce a ban without investigating the impact on Lake Beulah specifically, as well as involving those most impacted. I thank you for listening. Thank you.
All right. The last presentation will be by Protect Lake Beulah, the Lake Beulah Management District, and the Cedar Wilderness.
Sorry?
What's the third component of it?
Last one was the line.
Last Wilderness. Thank you.
Before we start. The Beulah Responsible Boaters, we're giving 10 minutes. And then PLB Alternative.
10 minutes.
All right,
We're limited to 10 minutes tonight because,
just for fair balance, we were
just for
looking.
balance, yeah. Sorry.
Okay,
Everyone gets 10 minutes tonight. The board will be scheduling another meeting where more ideas can be shared and be expressed.
This is a big enough, important topic that we need to hear from everybody and allow everybody who wants to speak the opportunity to speak. The fairest way to do tonight was we had 3 groups approach us. I apologize for the incorrect original agenda. It was not clear to me that the last group was not actually part of your group as per se, but, what we're doing is 10 minutes tonight
Okay,
for each of the 3, sorry.
all right.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Good evening. My name is Brian Ballou, and I'm Vice President of Protect Lake Beulah. Our mission is simple: protect the health of the lake for future generations. We've been safeguarding this lake for more than 100 years. A majority of our organization has decided that wake-enhanced boating poses a danger to the rights of others and to the lake's future. Imagine people having problems swimming, canoeing, kayaking, or using small fishing boats when these wake-enhanced boats are active. That's not fair or right. Our organization serves over 250 members and the broader lake community. Our summer 2024 survey shows overwhelming support for a ban or meaningful restrictions on wake-enhanced boating. Tonight, you'll hear about the dangers of these boats from an expert fisherman, Brian Fons. Fish populations are the best early warning system. You'll also hear from Richard Phillips, a leading authority on how other lake communities have acted to protect their lakes. In our view, Lake Beulah is too small, and it's not deep enough to allow wake-enhanced boating without big problems. One potential danger is an algae bloom, which could make Lake Beulah unswimmable. These kind of problems can have serious economic impacts for the broader community, the town. So this is a serious issue on our lake that won't go away, and in our view, it's rapidly getting worse. Will we be responsible stewards and protect Lake Beulah for our children, grandchildren, and future generations? We at Protect Lake Beulah urge you to act decisively now, before it's too late. So Brian Fons, the expert fisherman, will be our next Protect Lake Beulah speaker.
Good evening. As I mentioned, I'm Brian Franz. I am the board of Protect Lake Beulah, handling the fish and wildlife issues. I've been fishing Lake Beulah for 45 years, 20 years running the weekly bass tournament. With the introduction of wake-enhanced boating on Lake Beulah, many of us fishermen and women have observed dramatic and significant damage to Lake Beulah's weed beds and fish habitat. There are areas of the lake that once held healthy cabbage weeds, supporting many fish and other aquatic life. Unfortunately, many of these areas have disappeared and now look like bare moonscape with little signs of life. We at Protect Lake Beulah are studying and documenting the significant impact of downward prop wash on Lake Beulah's weed beds and lake bottom. We will look forward to presenting our compelling findings at the upcoming special meeting. I also have had discussions with many fishermen and local citizens, and they are expressing the same concerns that we all have. Many of them are looking forward to sharing their observations and those concerns at the upcoming special meeting. I will now turn over to Richard Phillips, who is working with Protect Lake Beulah on our efforts to address the lake enhancement issue. Richard's vast experience and expertise on lake enhanced boating and its impact on Wisconsin glacial lakes.
Hi, my name is Richard Phillips. I live in Presque Isle in Wallace County. I work extensively as a volunteer speaking on the environmental and safety aspects of wake surfing on Wisconsin lakes. I work closely with over 40 towns and consulted with many, many more. I've been directly involved in most of the enhanced wake ordinances enacted by Wisconsin towns over the last couple of years. And for those who think I'm a mindless tree hugger, I spent my entire career as a corporate attorney with ExxonMobil. Yes, that ExxonMobil. Protect Lake Beulah got in touch and asked my input. I generally just provide consulting by phone and email. But when I saw the incredible work they had done, the story they had to tell, the best I had seen of any group working on its own, and then I studied their very unique lake, your lake, I asked to join the group. I asked to help in the full effort no matter what decision the town board makes. To prepare all the documents for your town attorney's review, to work it through the DNR, to put in place whatever ordinance you decide to put in place. Most Beulah residents feel that wake surfing should be prohibited or at least significantly restricted. To their credit, the wake surfing supporters know that an ordinance is needed. They propose 20 feet of water depth. Protect Lake Beulah proposes a wake surfing prohibition. The boats can still be used for anything that doesn't involve making an enhanced wake. You don't use the wake shapers, you don't use the ballast tanks. There's a rub for Lake Beulah, resulting from the shape of your unique lake. It's really 4 lakes joined by shallower areas. If you decide on the restrictions route, any meaningful restrictions would leave so little area in any one place that becomes unworkable. It's far better to prohibit than try to corral the surf boats into these 4 small areas. The topic needs a lot more time, as you've observed, than we have tonight, but let me give you my quick summary. Wake surfing is fine, and I have no problem with it, provided it's on big lakes with deep areas and a great distance from shore. It cannot be done less than 700 feet from shore without serious tearing up of the shore into riparian areas. It cannot be done in less than 30 feet of water without tearing up your lake bottom, and your entire lake hinges on that lake bottom. Carol, show the map.
You're at 1 minute.
This is what your lake looks like with 700 feet from shore and 30 feet deep. The remaining areas are simply too small to support wake surfing. The boats would not stay there. They would inevitably stray. They would rip up the shore. They would rip up the bottom. They would destroy the lake for other lake users. Dozens of fishermen with decades of experience report the weed beds are disappearing. Your lake is talking to you. You don't need a study. You've had a study. The fishermen are the study. The only group that can protect Lake Beulah is this town board. The county has no authority to govern lakes. Industry money handicaps the state from doing anything meaningful. Indeed, in the last few weeks, the industry has larded Madison with huge amounts of money and will very shortly, the next few days, watch for it, introduce a bill that is intended to deprive Wisconsin towns of the ability to control their own lakes. Wisconsin is the only state in the country in which towns can protect their own lakes. The wake surf industry is going to take that away. Where's this going? 36 towns across Wisconsin, most of them in the last 13 months, have enacted ordinances that prohibit or greatly limit wake surfing. These local ordinances cover over 10% of all Wisconsin lakes over 50 acres. This will continue until a significant portion of Wisconsin lakes are protected from wake surfing because the lakes are too small and too shallow and too crowded for it to be done environmentally responsibly and safely. A few key points. Wisconsin, unique in the country, has the right at the town level to protect its own lakes. And aside from its citizens, there is no asset in East Troy more valuable to this town than the lakes, particularly Lake Beulah. What happens if you lose that? Public trust doctrine. The wake surfers love to talk about this. There is an opinion by the Wisconsin Legislative Council, the group of government that advises the state legislature, expressly stating wake surfing can be regulated, wake surfing may be prohibited. Many towns are acting now. 36 towns have already prohibited wake surfing. 30 or 40 more are working to do it right now. By the end of the year, I expect another 25 towns would have prohibited wake surfing. Lawsuits. I am always asked about lawsuits. I will promise you one thing. If you consider an ordinance, I promise you, you will be threatened with a lawsuit. Each and every town that considers doing something is threatened with a lawsuit. And the tally so far, 36 ordinances, 0 lawsuits. Ask yourself why. Depth. The industry claims no impact below 10 feet. Carol, will you go to the Thunderjet, Alexis? Now I understand. The industry says that they have compared a wake surf boat to a typical fishing boat. Behold, your typical fishing boat. 4,100 pounds, six fishermen, 21 feet long, and operated at plowing speed. That is how they got their benchmark. Safety of other boats. The wake surf industry's own data shows what a problem these boats are. Their own 2015 Gowdy study shows the wakes are 20 inches high at 100 feet and 13 inches high at 300 feet. My fishing boat has a freeboard of 12 inches. Where do I go to fish when the wake surf boats are out? Your lake has no deep central area far from shore. There's no place for wake surf boats. This town board has a choice. If it takes no action or enacts a weak ordinance, more wake surf boats will come to Beulah every year.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your presentation.
Sorry it was so low key.
This takes us to item D, to schedule a special town board meeting with public comments at that time regarding wake boat issues. No public comments will be taken tonight on this issue, so if I could have,
You wanna mention that the letters in the packet can be reviewed at that next meeting.
Yeah.
Invite those people.
anybody who has submitted a letter to the town, we appreciate that. Many of them have made the packet, and we invite you to come speak at our special meeting in person, even though you submitted your ideas or comments in writing. It's been